We'll just have to run this now through. All right. You're listening to Do That Well with your hosts, Brenda Brown and Karen Thrall, a podcast about real experiences and how to turn them into life lessons. Unscripted, honest, funny, genuine, and passionate, a series of conversations where we explore every aspect of human interaction and provoke each other to do life well. And on today's episode, we have a special guest. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So we have Crystal Ellefsen here with us today. Crystal is an entrepreneur, problem solver, poet, fiction writer, and marketing consultant for authors. Her primary business since 2014 has been consulting for authors, where she involved, Her primary business since 2014 has been consulting for authors, where she involved in 4 New York Times bestseller launches. She also created youarenotalonebox.com, which that's what I was missing. The word was.
Sorry about that.
No, totally. I was like, what? Why doesn't this sound right? Let me start that again from her primary business.
Okay.
Her primary business since 2014 has been consulting for authors, where she was involved in 4 New York Times bestseller launches. She also created youarenotalonebox.com, which offers curated gift boxes to send to someone who is grieving. Her personal creative projects often center around forgiveness and grief, while her client-based work is focused on the unique needs of authors to grow and leverage their digital platform for successful book launches. So needless to say, Crystal, you're a rock star, and we're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you both.
Okay, so the vision and the reason why we want to do this podcast is one, because Crystal rocks, like Brenda said, of course. But here's the question. So you want to write a book, ... Okay. And what we want to do is create inspiration for the people listening that have that creative side to them. There's some of you like me and Brenda, where we have a desire to put pen to paper on maybe some stories or articles, or get published, or get your articles published, or maybe it's a video, maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's a podcast, something where you have an audience. And I took Crystal's course, and it was a game changer. And I went in completely green, brand new, not knowing what to expect. And after I took this entire series of courses, I was so clear, and I felt so inspired, and I was so motivated to keep going after my dream. And how fun would it be? Because what if I'm not the only one? And I always want to believe that maybe there's other people listening who feel the same way I do, that you have this creative side to you. You don't know how to build your audience. You may not know how to publish it. And it could be video or written. We want to keep it open, but specifically Crystal's expertise is in getting authors' names out there. And I think it's so cool that you've participated in 4 New York Times bestsellers. So this is a wealth of information. So we're very excited to pick your brain today.
Thank you, Karen. It was such a delight to have you in the class.
Yeah.
So I created this course called Build Your Author Platform. But in order to kind of test out the content, I taught it live, and Karen was a part of that. And so it was so fun because we were able to interact and really talk about your project and all of that. So yes, my focus and my experience has primarily been with authors who are traditionally published, meaning they have a literary agent and a traditional publisher, usually one of the big 5. But the course is also designed to help people who want to self-publish as well. So, but the reality is that these days publishing is very different than it was 20, 30, 50 years ago, right? You can't be a hermit anymore. My dream as a child was, I want to be a writer. And I literally wanted the hermit lifestyle, maybe with a family. But, the reality now is that a platform is a requirement. Even more so if you want to be self-published, because you have no publisher to support you. And one of my goals is just to help authors see that they can connect with an audience without feeling sleazy and icky. That marketing doesn't have to be like pushy and gross.
Yeah. So
It's
good.
so funny. I love that you brought up this image of like the author being a hermit, because I do think that that is this like stereotype that exists. Like when I think of authors, I'm often thinking of somebody like holed away in some, small corner of the world, just pouring their heart out onto paper. But as you said, that's really changed, and the climate has changed, and the way in which we have to promote ourselves is so different now than it has been in the past.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of authors or creative people have ideas. They want to share their voice. They want to communicate, share their art, but they're kind of pulled in these both directions, right? Of I want to be seen, I want to share what I'm making, but also self-promotion feels weird, right? And, from my perspective, if you do it right and you do it well and do it in a way that you feel really comfortable. And I mean, actually, let me take that back. You will definitely feel uncomfortable in a part of the process, but not in a way like it goes against your values, right? You'll feel uncomfortable because you're pushing yourself to be seen, you're pushing yourself to be heard, you're pushing yourself to try new things, but not because you're doing things that just feel wrong in some like moral compass type of way, Sorry, my nose is itchy. Cut that out.
No, totally. That makes sense. So I'm not gonna lie. Prior to Karen introducing me to your platform, I had actually never even heard of an author platform. So can you give me a little more information for the listeners as well? Like, what exactly is an author platform?
Absolutely. So an author platform, or any type, specifically for authors, I'm going to describe it, but really anyone who wants to be visible, to usually sell something. In this case, which basically what you're selling is a book, right? But anyone who wants to sell a service, a product, you need a platform, right? So for an author, it's really any place where you have visibility and you can communicate directly with readers. So that encompasses a website, blog, email marketing, social media, a podcast like this one. It might be speaking gigs. Perhaps you are in media of some other kind where you are on, your job is part of a platform, you're a TV or radio host, could be YouTube channel. I mean, any format, but basically you have a direct connection with individual people who, in this case with authors, it's their readers. So it's not something where you write an article for someone else and it's on their publication, because you don't have direct access to communicate to those readers at any time. So you don't have to do all these things to have an author platform. It's more of that you need to be able to, basically, when you have a book available, you want to have a group of people that are so excited about your ideas, your stories, your voice, the way you communicate, and they're ready to buy it. And that's really what we're talking about, is collecting those people who will want the book that you are working on or haven't written yet, either way. So it's really just about being able to communicate with those people. And again, publishers want to know that there are people interested in what you have to say. And it's kind of a way of testing the ground and knowing, like, there are people who will buy this product, again, which the book is the product in this case. Or if you're self-published, the only way to sell your book is to have a platform. And so even if you don't know, I'm not sure if I want to aim for being traditionally published, or I might just go for being self-published. Even if you don't know what you want to write exactly or where you're planning to be published, it is really worth doing the process and trying to build an author platform, because through that process, you will learn so much, because it forces you to think about who you're writing for. It forces you to practice. I mean, I think, there's so many negative things about social media, right? But one of the positive things is that you can put ideas or art out into the world and get pretty instant feedback, right? Of course, it takes a while to build enough of an audience and learn from that process. And it is not necessarily easy, and there is no overnight success. But if you are willing to try and experiment and put things out there, then in that process, you'll get a better idea of, how do I communicate clearly to the right person? You might think, I have this idea and it will help this type of person. And then as you start to share it, you realize, oh, actually, no, it's going to help a person at a different stage of their business or career, and so being able to share little bits of information, understand people's questions, or just connect with people as you go, can be a really valuable part of writing a book. Of course, you have to have boundaries so that it doesn't take over your writing time. And you cannot place your value in, how people respond and if they like it or not. But it can be a really helpful way to get feedback and just get used to putting yourself out there. Mm-hmm. And all of that is such an important part of the process. Publishers see that you have people that are ready to buy, but the journey to getting there is valuable. And that's one reason I always think that people need to start now. You do not want to wait until you have a finished book. You don't want to wait until you have a book proposal or an agent. Don't wait. If you have any inclination that you think, I might want to write a book one day, or I'm currently working on a book, I strongly recommend everyone starts now to start building their author platform. I was actually listening to a previous episode when you guys were talking about slowing down. And I was thinking so much about how when you start early, you can go at your own pace and you can decide and you can say, this is a future goal of mine and I'm going to work towards it, but not in a frenzy. And I'm not going to, I can have healthy boundaries as I work through these things and as I learn the technical parts of it, but I can choose to go at my own pace.
Mm-hmm. When I took the course, there was probably about, it ranged 12 to 17 of us in and out of the course. And I couldn't believe how simple that my fear of social media or my angst or my resistance or my whatever of social media, you diffused it because you let me see it differently. Like even there's people that start being curious about you are looking for you. That's what's crazy. So when and Crystal, she sets you up. So for me, I'm in the process of writing a book. I'm so at a hard turning point right now. And it's just really hard to get around the corner. And I took the course because I didn't know what to do. Like I felt like I went as far as I could because I just don't know what I'm doing. I have a little dream. I don't know what I'm doing. But everything, it became so simple. Like every course I took, I think there's 9, right? There were 9 stages.
There's 8 lessons.
There's 8. Yeah. Okay. 8 lessons. And every time I was going poof. And so you really do help people understand what it means to have a listening audience. What does it mean to have an audience? And you only want your audience.
Yes.
You only want your audience. Like you're picking the people you want, and they're picking you. So that community of people that follow you really choose to follow. They want to follow you. And that's what's like. And so you start building this platform and you're already kindred with the people that are following you. So there's already like a community and a relationship, which makes it gives you the courage to keep going, because they're there to support you. And they're going to be your biggest fans when you launch the next thing. And I guess we can relate a little bit, Brenda and I, because our podcast, started with just a few people that love us, and people are choosing us. So our community is growing. So it's already got a bond. But anyway, so I love the way you diffuse so many fears of what are a negative perspective or perception of social media and platforms. I want everybody to take the course. I really do. I think it's just like, oh.
Well, thank you, Karen. And I think one thing that is really important to me, and I think is especially helpful for, creative idea people, right? Who they have something they want to share that they believe is valuable, or they're struggling and trying to believe it's valuable, but they're not like, oh, I want to go be a social media influencer and get free whatever, right? Or, they're not seeking fame, they're seeking expression of ideas or creativity or stories. And so it can feel like the only way to show up is to copy the types of things that you might not like on social media, right? But if you want to attract a certain type of person who's going to like your ideas and your story and your voice and your way of communicating, then you don't want to copy those people. You want to figure out your own way where you feel comfortable showing up and sharing content. And that might not be on social media. It might be, hey, I'm going to have a private newsletter and, this is how I prefer to communicate. Or it might be a podcast. There's lots of different ways to communicate online. There's, obviously, it's the opportunities are limitless in terms of, I prefer to write, I prefer to talk, I prefer to be on video, I prefer audio. And if you allow yourself to experiment and find what works for you, you want to find the overlap of what is working and what is effective in drawing in those people and what you enjoy. And if, again, you still in that process might go through things where you feel uncomfortable, of course, because all growth is uncomfortable. And, I'm sure we can all attest to just putting ourselves out there can feel uncomfortable, but generally you can still just find ways to be like, I'm enjoying this. This is fun. This feels creative. It feels satisfying to connect with the people who, if you're writing nonfiction, who you want to help, or if you're writing fiction or memoir or something, the people who will enjoy your story. And if you focus on the reader or, again, if you're not an author, whoever it is you're speaking to, if you focus on that person that you want to communicate with, then I think it frees you from being like, this is all about me. It's all about me. It's all about self-promotion. I want everyone's attention. Mm-hmm. But if you're thinking about who is my reader, how can I speak clearly to them? And how can I communicate to them in a way that they will recognize that I'm doing this for them? Like, let's say if you have a book, you already have a book out, because my course is also for people who already have books out, but still feel like not being very strategic with their platform. So whether you are writing a book, you think you want to write a book, you already have a book out in the world, it's designed, as long as you don't have like a company that manages your social media or your content marketing, as long as you're the one who does it, then my course is designed to help people kind of at any of those parts, just be more strategic and intentional. So you never wake up and you're thinking, what should I post on social media today? Like, that is a waste of everyone's creative energy, but you plan ahead and you're very strategic about what you want to be known for and who you're talking to, so that you don't waste time. It's effective, and you don't have to worry about it being like, it's about me.
I really like what you're saying. Even in listening to you talking about this, I'm already starting to have like this greater sense of freedom over here. Just when it comes to our podcast, even, I mean, I do think there is this pressure or this idea that it has to be on Instagram, or you have to go to Twitter, or that there's these very specific avenues in which you need to try and reach your audience. And what I'm hearing you say is that there are different ways that you can approach it. And it's more about the authenticity, or that, forming community. And there's something that I do find really freeing about that. Again, even, moment behind the curtain, even with our podcast with Karen and I, there are times where it becomes more of this task that we need to check off. At least that's how it feels for me sometimes. Like, oh, I have to check off the social media box. But the intention with our podcast has always been more about, creating community. And so I really like what you're putting out there right now. It's
sure. One of my other author marketing principles is that if you're not having fun, neither are your readers, right? If you're bored, if you're like, I have to post, you're not usually creating something that someone is going to enjoy or benefit from or laugh at or be inspired by. But if you're like, let yourself let go of the things that aren't working so that you can have more fun in other types of content or other platforms or whatever it is. And of course there's seasons. Then you're going to bring an energy that is attractive and fun, and you're going to be more of yourself. Right. And let me have some water. Cut that out. Okay. So one of the exercises in my course that I personally love the most is about thinking of the 5 things that you want to be known for, and then using that to create your 6-month author strategy. So it is, I have a free PDF on my website. If you go to consultingforauthors.com and sign up for my newsletter, I'll send it to you. And you can also get the free first lesson for free when you sign up for my newsletter. But it's a brainstorming activity that helps you think about, if I had to pick only 5 things to be known for, in terms of, as it relates to your writing career or your public persona, it's not necessarily like the 5 things that you want your kids to remember, right? It's whatever you want to present in your public persona, whether that is, themes related to your book, whether that is, skills that you have or values that you have, or even like a hobby that you just want to share with the world that overlaps with your writing. What are these 5 things? And then if I were to just focus on those 5 things and forget about all the other random pressure, right? Because these are the things that are going to either connect with the readers who want to buy your book, or, let's say if you have a service-based business and you focus on those 5 things, then you're going to bring in clients, or, whether you're B2B and you're trying to create content and a brand to connect with customers or readers, whatever it is. If you can just focus on those things, it's so much easier to create your strategy and think about, what should I put out there, right? What are the most important things? Like an exercise that kind of forces you to limit. Don't pick 10 things, and you need more than one, right? But like, what would that look like? And it's such a helpful way to make sure that the things you're putting out there are intentional to, again, especially in the case of authors, connect with the future buyers of your book.
Hey, Crystal, what are the biggest misconceptions or assumptions about these platforms and marketing yourself that you've noticed, even with the big writers, even with the big authors that made it to the New York bestseller list? What are the misconceptions?
Well, I think it does vary at different stages, but I think some of the biggest things that I think people think is, one, that you have to be everywhere, right? That you have to be on every single platform, that you have to basically be doing this full time, which you don't. There even are a lot of very successful people out there who are like, I'm only on Instagram, or I'm only on I'm only on this one place, and that's where I will be if you want to connect with me. And then they personally respond, or things like that. You don't have to be everywhere. There are, of course, ways to be very efficient so that some of your content can be scheduled and duplicated. But I always recommend that you pick 1, maybe 2 platforms that are where you really engage, right? Where you really connect with people, where you respond, you reply, you interact. You can't just, put content out in the world and then step away. But you could pick a few platforms that it's mostly automated. You just have to share, but you're like, this isn't where I really engage. So you don't have to do everything and be everywhere. It's more important to do a few of those things well, and then figure out, how to potentially automate the rest of it, if you choose to do that. I think another thing, again, is kind of what I referred to before, is just that to build an author platform means that you're just talking about yourself all the time. It's just self-promotion all the time. But if you write a book that you're proud of, and that's going to help people or entertain people, or whatever the reason for your book is, right? It might just be, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. It doesn't have to help people in some way, but let's say that it does. Let's say that your book is about ideas and you want to help people get from A to B, right? Then it's about them. It's about the people that you're helping. It's about helping people find a resource that will change their life. It's not about just like, buy my widget. I am not interested in helping people, like just get anyone to buy their book. Who cares? Because if you sell your book to the wrong person, they're going to leave bad reviews because they didn't like it. And what's the point, right? I want to help people connect with the readers who will love their book. Your book is not for everyone. It doesn't need to be for everyone. I think that's another big misconception that people have, is this idea that, oh, my book will help everyone. Your book will not help everyone. Not everyone will enjoy your book, but that's great. That's fine. I always think about, I remember sometime when Etsy kind of first came out. If you're familiar with Etsy, right, they have lots of like handmade crafts and arts and things like that. So when it first came out, there was some like really weird stuff on there that I was like, how is this successful? And people where I'm like, how have they sold so many of this? Right. But in some ways, what's so beautiful is that like they found their people, right?
Yeah.
If they only went to local craft shows, they would not have found enough of their people. And now this person is making a full-time income, making some strange little object that doesn't appeal to me, but they found their people, and they found the people that like love what they made, right? And they found enough of those people that they then were able to make a career of their creative act, right? And so, depending on what your goals are, there's ways to be successful and connect with readers and make a difference and build your platform. That doesn't mean you have to be like the most famous or on the New York Times bestseller list. Like being on the New York Times bestseller list is not the only measure of success as a writer, right? And so I think, it's, the reality is it takes a lot of resources to be on that list, or a lot of luck. And so, I think there's a lot of other ways to be successful as a writer, or to quantify, like, this is my goal. Maybe you're writing a book because you want to communicate with your existing customers and you just want to educate or inform, and it's not about, even millions of people reading your book or thousands. You're like, I just want to communicate to these people. Or, maybe you're trying to get more clients or customers. And so I think there's so many ways to think about, like, why do I want to do this? What are my goals with it? And success doesn't have to only look one way as an author.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, I was going to say earlier, you mentioned, if somebody is just thinking about writing a book or they're just in the beginning phases, you mentioned that you are an advocate to start sooner so that you have lots of time. This is a bit of a selfish question, but do you feel like your course would be good for people that maybe you don't want to write a book, but you do just want to start improving on your writing skill? So, what if you were somebody that just wanted to get a blog going and start building your community that way in the hopes that you're going to continue to further your, author's voice? Do you think your course would be good for somebody like that?
Absolutely. So the course doesn't focus on writing skills in terms of, copy editing or things like that, but it does talk about a lot of practical parts about how to actually, like, what should be on your website, how to set up your email newsletter, what should be in your social media bio. So a lot of it is I think it combines very practical marketing things with a lot of foundational, helping you think through, like, why am I doing this? And, and being very strategic in the big picture. So I don't have writing instruction, but if you want to put your writing out publicly, right? If you want to put it on a blog, if you want to practice writing by sharing your writing publicly, if you want to practice writing privately and you're not ready to be public, well, you should try anyway. But it's not, so it's, if you're not ready to even like do anything publicly, it's not the right fit for you yet. But if you want to, publish on a blog or an email newsletter, and you're like, I just want to get better at writing, I want to get better at sharing my ideas, but I'm ready to do that in front of people, then absolutely, yes, it is for you, because I think it will also help you, think through your goals for that. And, at the end of the course, you create a 6-month author platform strategy. And so you could try something for 6 months and then realize, you know what, actually, I need to do this other medium, or I thought I wanted to be known for these 5 things, but actually it's these other 5 things. And I think all of that process is a part of becoming a writer, becoming an author, being someone who's ready to share your ideas with the world, just like on this podcast, right? Like, you guys have gotten so much better since you first started it, right? And that's because you just started and you just did it and you tried and you put yourself out there and you explored. And to me, that is so much of what building an author platform is about. It's about exploring and trying, and a part of that being like what's working and what's working both for me, what I'm enjoying, but also what is truly effective in getting more people, right? But if you want to become a better writer, we have obviously like access to ways in which where you can also have readers instantly. And I think having readers will make you a better writer. And so in that way, I would say yes.
Wow. That was amazing. You don't even think that way, that if I have people reading it, it does make you a better writer because you have the audience, you care about that audience. I want to say something that was really cool when I took the course is for people listening, if you're a poet, like there were poets in this course who were publishing their poetry. Like how cool is that? If you're a songwriter and you want to start publishing, you want to get your lyrics out there. This is how if you want to do if you want to do your own like memoir biography, or if you want to do a thriller, or you want to do a horror, you're the next Stephen King, or you just, you have these simple, like a recipe book, or like, it's incredible. It's truly a gardener. It's truly what it connects to. What is your writing? When you write, how does it connect to you? What is your style of writing? And then you get to go find people that can identify with you, or who connect, or who go, wow. And I remember, Crystal, you saying you have this poet that you absolutely adore, and you start following her because, Crystal, you have a side of you that has a poet side in you, So it really woke me up to how many different forms and genres and venues of writing there are out there. And that's why, like when you said the Etsy thing, that's what made me think of it. And then you get to find your people. And absolutely. I think that it was so cool to see the diversity in the group.
Sure. And, so I have an MFA in creative writing, and, I remember, while I was in graduate school for writing, everyone there, we're all just so focused on craft, right? And we're, kind of snooty. And, but the reality is that now I think I've shifted so much, and I'm really an advocate for the reader. And I think that really thinking about the reader and not just, critics or, whatever. And I love beautiful language and I love literary fiction, but, I used to really not understand. I mean, I really relate to people who like, why should I have to market my own book? Like, isn't it enough that I have good ideas or beautiful words? Right. And, I understand it's something that writers didn't have to do. It's an adjustment. But the reality is that if you want people to read your book, you have to do this now. It's just non-negotiable, and I mean, and if you're starting now, of course, there are people who became popular 20 years ago and they don't really do much on social media or anything, and they still can do it because everyone knows who they are. But these days, if you are starting now, you have to do it. It is not an option to not be engaged in your own book marketing, even if you have a traditional publisher, even if they put a huge budget behind your book. But you can find a way to do it so that you don't feel like it, like ruins your joy in writing, I think. And I think you can find a way to do it where you put boundaries and you have a plan in place so that, you decide like, why am I on social media? Why am I not here? What am I going to do if something horrific happens? So when you have a plan and a strategy for all of those things, it can feel so much less overwhelming to be on social media, to be a public persona and figure out, but you'll learn as you go. And that's part of the process, and, something I say is that, if you're in the early stages of growing your platform, the best strategy is the one that you will actually execute. It doesn't have to be complicated. Your strategy for the next 6 months could be really simple. And you might say, I only have 1 hour a week. But if you start now strategically investing 1 hour a week, a year from now, you'll be in a totally different place. 2 years from now, you'll be ready in a whole different way, right? So if you just start now and you choose your pace, and instead of waiting further down the line, but if you start now and you do it without like, what should I be doing? Like if you have an hour and you're like, I don't even know what I should be doing with my hour, that's not effective. But if you have an hour and you have a strategy in front of you and you know exactly what your next step is, then you're going to make a lot of progress over time, even if your pace is slow, even if you're not, reacting to everything or spending hours every day working on your content and your platform.
Wow. I'm inspired.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
I, before we started this recording, I was mentioning I don't consider myself much of a writer. So I was really curious to learn more about this. But I'm inspired. I'm like, maybe it's time for me to start my blog and put myself out there. You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you do.
Absolutely. And, there's so many things you might discover in that process. But again, if you just start now and you try, I don't think you'll regret it. I don't, and it's very, obviously, the course costs a little money and certain things cost a little bit of money, but most things you don't have to invest a lot of money or even time to try and to explore and experiment.
Mhm. Okay. So for people that are they want to look you up, go to consultingforauthors.com. So it's consultingforauthors.com, and you'll see what Crystal is offering there in this course. I highly recommend it. I've been telling everybody that will listen to me to take it. It was wonders. It truly was a game changer for me. And Crystal, you've been very generous because the listeners who are interested, if you put in the coupon "Do That Well," you get a 40% off on the course. And so thank you very much for that, Crystal. So don't forget, put in the "Do That Well" coupon, you get 40% off. It's Build Your Author Platform is the training curriculum, and it's an eight module training. So yeah, Consulting for Authors, Crystal Ellefsen.
Yes. And it's designed where you could do, one per week for 8 weeks and then, be done with the course and have time, about an hour to watch the videos, about 30 minutes to do homework between videos. Or if you're like, I have a week off, I have a lot of time, or I'm just super motivated, you could do 8 days in a row. You don't want to stretch it out too much, but I designed it where it's really manageable to go through the content. Then you'll create your 6-month author strategy, and then you execute it and you have a plan and you take your little baby steps and you move forward. But, I'm really excited to offer that 40% off because I really just do want more people to feel like it's accessible to understand how to do this well. I did not mean to say that. But I have so many friends who are writers and thinkers, and I really just wanted to be able to help them, even though, previously most of my clients were, high profile people, and I didn't have a way to just be able to help more people. And so I'm really excited to just be able to put this out there and make it available to people.
Well, I think we're excited too. And yes, thank you so much for this discount code. Hopefully some of our listeners will pop on over and take your course. I know it's on my to-do list now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, as always, we have a short amount of time here on Do That Well. So I think that about wraps it up. But are there any last parting words that either of you ladies have today?
I'm just so thankful to be here and be able to talk to you guys. This is really, really fun.
I just think it's great. It gets me inspired to know that there's a lot of creativity out there and there's room. I think sometimes we think, oh, no one who would ever listen to me or who would ever read my material. There really is. There's plenty of room. It's not a small niche or niche. I say niche, but niche. What do you say? Do you say niche or niche?
I say niche.
Yes. I also say niche.
Okay. Niche. Anyway, so there's plenty of room for all of us to really dive into this writing and this putting our content, whatever that content is, out there for others to connect with you. So I would highly encourage us all to stretch ourselves and get uncomfortable and invest in ourselves and learn and go after something that might be, if your heart's pounding going, I really want to do this, then do it.
Absolutely. Start now.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you again, Crystal, for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure having you, and hopefully our paths will cross again someday.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.